So I'm delighted to be here to do a presentation on a project that I've been working on with my colleague here, Maboh. I'm so sorry, I can't pronounce it. So I'm Fran Cornelius, and I'm one of the program coordinators of this e-learning capacity building project in Cameroon. I'm also faculty at Drexel University, College of Nursing and Health Professions. And I would like to allow Maboh to introduce himself now.
Thank you, Fran. I am Michel Maboh, presently the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Innovation and Cooperation at Biaka University Institute of Buea. We are a partner institution to Drexel CNHP, and it has been that way since officially since 2013, but unofficially since 2011. So this is one of the projects that we have collaborated on. And at the same time, I am also founder of a health research platform or organization, which is called Health Research Foundation, which we designed to be able to bring research competence to the wider professional community beyond health. So that's what I do, and we collaborate on many things, and this is one of the things that Fran and I and the team that includes about 3 other members have put together to address e-learning issues within higher education in Cameroon. So I am happy to share what we have learned so far and also listen to what others have to say about our experience. Thank you.
And also, we're happy to share our vision for where we want to go in the future too. We have some next steps in mind as well. Thank you, Maboh. So I'll turn this over to you to talk about the background a little bit.
Yes, it's important to make our viewers and listeners understand the context. On this slide, we have a very nice picture of Mount Cameroon, which is an active volcano. It's along the shores of the west coast of Africa in the Gulf of Guinea. So that's a very nice view from the city, which sits on the slopes of this mountain. That's where we are. And Buea has also been called Silicon Mountain because of the many IT startups, young people who are in IT. They have been doing quite a lot of work, and BBC even did a documentary on that. So that's what Buea is. It's also a center of learning, as you can call it. I think very much like Philadelphia. So many schools. The biggest thing that drives the economy in Buea is education. So many institutions are found there. So generally, Cameroon as a whole has seen its internet access grow steadily, even if not very fast-paced, over the past decades. For example, in 2000, we were at 0.25%. And then by 2019, we were up to 23.2% of the population having access to internet. So currently, the available data says that we have about 30% internet penetration. And the bulk of this is students and people in education. However, I would say full online programs are not available in Cameroon. In all the institutions, your programs are typically face-to-face. You don't even have hybrid programs. But at the same time, because of this great access to internet, we have people, professionals who have been able to access online platforms that offer free courses and maybe some paid courses. So there is a significant experience in that domain with the younger generation. Then with schools, higher institutes as well, we have a good number of them running learning management systems. They are customized. They are not any of the big names you know. And typically they used it for administrative functions and students' records. So not really as a learning platform as we know it. Now, it's also important for me to mention that during the past 5 years, or 4 years, sorry, we have been involved in a civil strife, which has affected school attendance so much. And then COVID lockdowns came to make a bad situation worse. So sometime last year during the first wave, the government had to shut down schools. And that was when most institutions asked their staff to take teaching online. But there was no preparation, there was no initial work done. It was just like, this is happening, we can't lose the students, we need to be doing something. So everybody went online and tried to do what they could do. So in as much as we have a younger generation that is very tech savvy, the people who have been in practice for these years, many years, are not as tech savvy as the younger generation. So there is that gap, which is quite significant. So that is the context that our project was coming into. So when the US Embassy was asking for funding, we came together to design this program with the goal of improving the capacity of these higher institutions to manage e-learning. So we were responding to an acute problem. It had become an acute problem because of the combined issues related to the crisis, the ongoing Anglophone crisis, and the COVID lockdowns. In the program, we had 3 institutions coming together. There was Drexel University, CNHP specifically. We also have Health Research Foundation, and we have Biaka University Institute. The funding came from the US Embassy, and the team involved in this project, which we'll see in the later slides, include people from these institutions, from Drexel, from HRF, and from Biaka. So our goals in this program, our objectives, was to help these participants. We were looking at 2 groups of participants, the academic faculty and the administrators. It is interesting that we adopted that model because we looked at the fact that if the academic staff come for some training, learn something new, and go back to their institutions, they need the administrative staff to support them to make it happen. So we had to choose a model that brought in both groups. So for the academic staff, we wanted them to learn how to develop online content using best practice guidelines. And during the second phase of their training, we supported them. We had mentors who supported them to actually develop a course, an online course within the different courses they teach. While for the administrators, we were seeking to help them to develop policies to guide online education in their institutions. So we were hoping that they will know what it takes, what kind of support is needed, and know what the administration has to do with respect to making that happen. And something that we are looking forward to, which is also part of our next steps, is establishing an online community of practice from this group that has gone through this training, that has picked up the skills and knowledge. So we think that if we have them in this community of practice, it's going to make it very more likely that we will see an expansion in the number of higher education faculty and administrators who are getting into this. That's our team.
Okay, so I'll take over here and talk a little bit more, because Maboh did mention that we had 2 groups of distinct participants, program participants. And we also, through recruited from 9 institutions, higher education institutions. And this really took some negotiation and relationship building on the part of the folks on the ground, Maboh included, because as he indicated earlier, there's a very high number of academic institutions in that region. So as such, it's highly competitive. And to bring competitors together is a challenge because, you know, they are viewing this as an opportunity for themselves. So it was really a negotiation to bring them together to come into the program, recruiting from each institution at least 1 administrator and at least 3 instructors, faculty members. And with that intention was that they would be learning together, and then they would be able to be a cohort that could drive and serve as a catalyst within their home organization to, you know, to initiate an e-learning, a robust e-learning program. So we started off with phase 1, where we had 40 participants from 9 institutions, and they all took a modified version, modified in the sense that it was longer term. We learned that it needed to be longer than the traditional essentials for online teaching and learning that we have here at Drexel University. We found that there was more time needed to ramp up and get folks comfortable with the environment. And as such, we stretched it out and provided more time for people to acclimate, to move through the courses and get comfortable with it. Then when we finished phase 1, we separated the 2 groups. And as Maboh mentioned, the instructors went into a course where they were learning how to apply the tools. Whereas in the previous course, they were actually taking a course learning the experience for online learning as learners. And now they were going into design from a faculty perspective to appreciating what they've learned as learners regarding the online learning experience. The administrators attended a seminar-like course where we brought in experts from e-learning and from the library. We had a librarian talking about open source resources, because library capacity in Cameroon is limited. It's very expensive, as you all know, that to have a library such as we have here at Drexel is very expensive, and it's enviable, you know, when others come and see what we have. So we wanted to look to see how we could be building open source content to help support the institutions. And then, of course, we're finishing up the program now. We're having our graduation ceremony next week. And our phase 3 of that is to draw these new first cohort of graduates into the sustained learning community of practice through multiple efforts to provide continuous training, resources, and networking, which we'll talk a little bit more in the subsequent slides. So the learning together, that really is a critical component of the program, as Maboh talked about before, is that you cannot train somebody to be innovative and deliver courses online when they don't have the infrastructure support at home. And one of the comments we've gotten from several of our administrators who attended the program, was that they now have a new appreciation that they really had to shift their paradigm to appreciate not only the need for faculty development, but also for this ongoing support that's necessary. And we introduced them to best practices and guidelines like Quality Matters or other rubrics for quality design. And it was all something relatively new to them. They, as Maboh mentioned before, they had some experience in teaching online. They've been doing some things online, but they hadn't gotten introduced to the quality design metrics. Excuse me. So phase 2, as I mentioned, this is how we had them separated out. And then after we finished phase 2, we went in, we had a structured debrief session. We also did surveys, but we brought together everybody that was involved in the program, including not only the program participants, but also the mentors and the project team members. And we had, as you can see, well attended and good discussion resulting from that. We also, as I mentioned, we surveyed them. And I wanted to take the time here to talk. We also surveyed the individuals who did not persist. So we did have program attrition. It's about 50% of our attendees did drop out. And there are a variety of reasons that I invite Maboh to chime in if I miss anything. One, he mentioned already about the infrastructure and the fact that, you know, people had to jump into the deep end and do online given the COVID and the insurgency and the civil strike that's occurring. The other thing is that there were frequent power outages, and the internet data plans in Cameroon. If those of you who are attending here may recall the time when we used to purchase data by the minutes, and it would run out of data and we have to add more money onto our accounts. That's the way it is here in Cameroon right now. So Cameroon's infrastructure related to accessing the internet and the resources is similar to what we were about 10, 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. So there's a cost associated with that. And then often individuals may not necessarily have a laptop at home. They're using their phones to access the internet. And that's often what's happening in under-resourced areas, is that's the device that individuals access information. Another barrier we learned was one of the best practices that we have adopted here in the States is that we do frequent, communication, posting announcements, sending that out through email, by the mechanism of the LMS. But email is not so frequently accessed in Cameroon. So we're sending out messages, but no one was listening. And so our workaround with that was that Maboh set up WhatsApp for WhatsApp for our attendees. And so he would echo. It was like an echo whenever anything came out of the course, an announcement, a midweek nudge, or just some cheering and coaching and getting them to move through the program. Maboh would send that out through WhatsApp, so that we kept them involved and engaged. And so that was a way that we negotiated the limitations that we had with the environment. And that was the other thing too that we had to adjust to. Maboh, you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I think one of the things that we really couldn't do anything about was the workload. Many of our participants had heavy course load, and they were struggling to meet up with their course load and at the same time take the course. So I think at some point that was impossible for many of them. So I think what we've learned there is, what we saw there was that more had to be done at the institutional level to give this faculty the time to fully participate in the program. So that was something that we couldn't do much to address because it was external to the project, and we can only make recommendations in our reports.
That's something that we're going to be firmer on this time. And we did tell the institutions as part of the invitation for them to participate that we asked them to commit. We told them how much time per week it would require of the program participants, and that we asked that they were given dedicated time to work on this, because it was a win-win. It would help the organization. The organizations did agree because they were the ones that submitted the enrollment list, so by submitting their participants was a tacit agreement to participating in the program and giving them the time. But you're right, workload was an interesting discussion that we had with the administrators. It wasn't one of the seminar sessions that we had was on faculty development and workload. and we discussed how, you know, we needed the investment in faculty time and development, and recognizing the time that's involved in doing course design and teaching online was eye-opening for our administrators. So it was really very interesting. See, what else did we have as far as reasons for attrition? Again, it was the workload was definitely it, but the frustration of trying to do it on their own time. So the ones that persisted, you know, really, you know, they didn't have any released work time or download or anything like that. They were just really very dedicated and worked late. They were making comments and jokes about me, but I got messages from them when I know it was like 3 a.m. in their time or something like that, you know. So they were very committed to participating in the program and being successful. So here are some of the quotes that we got from, happens to be one from an instructor. And I'm not going to read it to you. Well, but it really does show that it was wonderful to see that they valued, that they learned what was behind the curtains. You know, what does it take to put on the show? You know, what are the considerations? Here's another quote from an instructor. And she pointed out that her students actually came to her and said, "We like what you're doing," you know, and really pointed out, you know. So she said she was very pleased that the students noticed it right away, that she had changed her perspective, and that's gratifying. And this was the advanced. Go ahead, Maboh. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things there was that they were transferring what they had learned when it comes to student engagement and many other things in an online environment to their face-to-face classrooms. So that was amazing. And we didn't really see that. We were very focused on our goal on online learning, but they started doing or implementing some of the things they were learning right away, even though they had not created online courses yet or sessions yet. They were doing that right away with their students in face-to-face sessions.
Yes, and that was the other thing too, was that we had introduced them to Bloom's taxonomy, which was new for them. They had where they were actually, their objectives were related to assignments. You know, like the students were going to be able to do this. They would submit this paper. They would be answering my questions. You know, those were the deliverables. And when we introduced the notion of Bloom's taxonomy and writing learning objectives that were learner-centered, and that was also an epiphany that many of the instructors had. It was very interesting. And this one right here is from an administrator, and he actually spoke for quite a while. I just pulled out some key things that he said when he was giving us feedback, but I found that very interesting. And Maboh, I think a couple of, or was it Cheryl was saying that one of our administrators was actually rolling up a, oh, we're doing this. He was already starting to implement things.
Yes, one of the school administrators, he was already making changes at his institution, incorporating this, I would say what he was learning from here, and it's just what we were hoping to have when we brought them in, because otherwise the faculty can come back and tell all the nice stories, and the administrators will not be. They may say that's a good story, but we're not interested for now. But having seen this, and I think it's also something, because administrators tend to have this broad view, this long-term vision of the institution. So when they sit in here and they learned, they were not just seeing the possibilities in one course or in a few courses. They were looking at how it could change the whole pathway going forward for their institutions.
Yeah, which is very exciting. You know? So what did we learn we learned quite a bit, didn't we, Maboh?
Yes, yes, we did. I think as Fran mentioned at the beginning, one of the first things we learned was that, hey, don't depend on the emails. So, I mean, for some of us, we have become very accustomed to using emails. So even though we are within the same context, we forgot that the majority of people don't use emails. I think communication in most, in the institutions, typically it's by letters and printed communiques. So when something is sent out, it is printed and then distributed campus-wide to faculty and all those concerned. So we were sending emails and not getting responses when we needed them.
Right.
So I think that was one of the, it was very interesting to me because I was like, what? I didn't even notice that I was.
Maboh has been enculturated. He spent quite a bit of time with us in the United States. So yeah. So, and the other thing that we learned too was, again, we had made assumptions because we knew that they were using the internet and had been penetrated to higher education. And, but we didn't fully realize the extent of onboarding that we needed to do. You know, we did do an orientation session. We talked about how, you know, the program was going to unfold and how we would be, you know, guiding them through the program. But in retrospect, we thought we should have a full, like, week-long, like, for new students on campus kind of experience for orientation and onboarding, getting them comfortable with some goofy things that get them comfortable with using the tool. But also we thought it would be wonderful if we could have them get together as their cohort on their campus and form a team and have them do something as a team from the beginning, because we were trying to gather them later on, you know, when they were working on the online component, to work collaboratively to give each other feedback and be mutually supportive. And we did not have that firmly established from the beginning. You know, they were working in silos and then they were coming together. So we needed to develop that. The other thing I think we wanted to do is we got feedback from our mentors. And we had mentors from Drexel University who volunteered their time, and we didn't bring them in early enough. They wanted, you know, we were thinking that, okay, we won't bring them in until, you know, because we know they're busy, you know, they've agreed to do this. We'll bring them in when we are assigning them mentors and they're working on designing their learning content. But the mentors told us that they wanted to be involved earlier. So in future iterations of this program, we would bring them in when we started doing the essentials, the first course, the phase 1, and have them be, you know, connected. The relationships that they've been forming with their mentors, though, the one-on-one is really quite powerful. We've gotten good feedback from that.
Yes, Fran. I think I would also add that one of the things we did well was our adaptability. We really tried as much as we could to adapt to the situations as we saw them. We didn't anticipate a good number of the challenges we faced, but we adjusted to them very rapidly, because one of the things, as Fran mentioned, the challenge that some of them had to access these online platforms and navigate, even though you send out those instructions, some people actually needed help. They needed someone to walk them through it, to physically walk them through it. And our teams on the ground at some point had to make site visits, since we had a number of institutions in a particular area. We visited and met the participants, of course, following COVID guidelines, and walk them through that process. Okay, when you see the screen, it says this, because when some of them started trying, when they don't see exactly what is you mentioned in an emailed instruction or something, they get tense and they really can't figure their way around. So we did things like that. And then we also circumvented the email and electronic issue by creating a WhatsApp group. and also doing what they are used to, getting paper copies for most important communications delivered to them. So I think we were learning while going on as well. And we also increased the time frame. We increased the time frame for people to do these things, not only with the onboarding, but to get to complete the assignments, because we wanted them to get more familiar with the software.
Right, right. Yeah, and that definitely helped a lot as far as doing that. And one of the other things too is as we were working with them and recognizing not only do they have internet limitations, one of the things we had to consider was that their learners would have internet limitations. And so we were very fortunate to identify a resource called EdApp that is a mobile learning platform that allows you to create micro lessons that are in, you create a course and have micro lessons within the course, and those can be downloaded onto the learner's phone, and they can work on it offline, submit their responses, and then when they're back in an environment where they can upload, they can upload. So this is something that scaled nicely with the limitations of not having a laptop and being able to work on it on their phone and interact with the content. It actually had a very robust capacity for interaction. So there's different kinds of activities that you can do to drive home the lesson and have the student self-check, which of course is the best practice. And to be able to do that offline was quite remarkable and powerful for us to be able to leverage this tool and bring that into the program. And they're embracing that. They're having a lot of fun with using that tool. Anything else, Maboh, you want to add?
We are looking about some of the things that we could have avoided. I think it's improving the communication that we have with the institutions. I think that we could have a system where we routinely communicate. I think we did bring in some of the school top management in some of the presentations, but I think that we can get better cooperation if we have a system of routinely informing them. I think we talked about it, but we didn't get to really implementing it, routinely inform them of the performance of their team, since they nominated 4 people from each institution. So it's something that we can do better next time.
Yeah, and I think that it might be a model where we could use that. It's not so much like we're giving them a report card. It's about sharing the ahas, so that they could come together. Maybe we could have, again, that's where we were talking about creating the cohort group connection and having administration. So hopefully moving forward, the cohorts would be physically able to meet together, work collaboratively, and then share their thoughts and the ahas and kind of feed off each other and building excitement about, okay, we can do this. Let's see how we can, move forward and move the needle more or less, So I think that really, if we structure that in that manner, I think it would be viewed very positively and less of a big brotherish, shaking your finger at somebody. You don't want to do that.
Right.
Now, one of the other things, again, I would say the next thing I think is to talk about what our next opportunities are here. It's our phase 3, and that will lead into some of the things we want to do differently as well. So this is our prototype for our e-learning community of interest website, which we have a webmaster who's been very gracious with his time helping us out, Clovis. And but the plan is that this would be a landing page that would create a library of resources and offer events that would be maybe invited guest speakers who are experts in the field, opportunities for our members to share, spotlight what they've been doing, network, and just have like-minded individuals that they can brainstorm with.
And we are hoping, we see that there is a possibility that with an active community of interest, some of the graduates from these programs could become facilitators when we have the sessions that come later. And at the same time, they could also share contents that they have developed in a kind of safe space where you can feel welcome to share what you have, receive some feedback, and also get others who are not who have not gone through the training, be interested in what we are doing. So it's easy for them. The community of interest, this platform is going to have a section that is open access to everybody, and then a members only section. So it's easy for them to get their colleagues who are not involved in e-learning and other people to get to this platform, see what we are doing. They'll be able to access what is open to everybody. And I think that way we can actually generate more interest in e-learning and show that it is possible, it can work.
Absolutely. And one of the things is I mentioned earlier about faculty development being kind of a new idea, and the notion of that continuous improvement and continually developing the faculty. So the events that we would have here would be something that would allow that opportunity to occur. And that may also drive the momentum, we're hoping beyond the region, that it would have a sustaining impact beyond Cameroon, and raise the skill sets among the faculty that we have worked with. They still have much to learn, as I do. We always have much to learn, but to build on their successes here and then raise it up a little bit more, and provide them an opportunity to pursue continual development. One of the other things that we noticed is, and actually this was recognizing, because of the fact that workload is so high and the demands on a faculty member in Cameroon is very, very high, that they have shifted more to a transactional perspective rather than, I'm going to learn for learning's sake. It's really about, what is this going to gain for me? So this is something that is an opportunity for them to gain something that's very visible, that adds to their skill set, makes them more desirable. That they got a certificate for phase one. They're going to get a graduate certificate for completing the entire program. That is something that they can put on their profile, their resume, to demonstrate that they've gone above and beyond and pursued additional training. So I think that this is something else that would draw people in, is that they would be able to have something that they can point to that they've developed. So I think that will help build this, at least the momentum for this environment. The next steps, Maboh, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we have been talking about that already with our model on the community of interest. I think that is where we are pitching most of our capital at this point. The community of practice would be the vehicle that takes this forward. Not because we also want that, we don't want to be at the forefront of this. We want to gradually shift to the back screen and then leave these people who have been trained to lead the effort. So we are investing very much in that community of practice. And we are still trying to make the case that you can't bring change in a system with just a few number of people going through a training. You need to build critical mass that can drive change. So our next steps, we are still looking for funding to expand this and train more people. One of the things that we saw at the beginning, we used a model where we invited the institutions to nominate staff. But we also had inquiries from people out of the region, from institutions out of the region. And we also had individuals who were asking to participate, even if they had not been nominated by their institutions. So there is this interest in the broad community of educators. So it may not be institutionally driven. We need to think about how to satisfy this other group of people. And then we are also thinking about institutions that are not necessarily directly involved in education. For example, research institutions or research institutes. They too were asking about the possibility of taking part and having their staff trained in this, because I think these days everybody has to do something online. Maybe it's a short course, maybe it's a presentation of what you're doing, and there is an interest in that. So those are areas that we would want to consider when we do this again.
Right. So what we're trying to do is identify a funding stream for a multi-year endeavor that would expand not only on the community practice, but also enable us to have 2 cohorts per year go through the program to build more capacity, critical mass, as Maboh said, to really, invest in this. And we're looking for funding from the U.S. Embassy and other entities. One of the other things that really came forward was the thing that everybody sees, because remember, we're in an environment that's very competitive, so nobody wants to give away anything or give away an edge, but one thing that it seemed like everybody agreed on, that to have a open source library for higher ed institutions to utilize would be something that they could get behind and be collaborative on, with. So there was a very significant interest in being part of something like that. So we're currently exploring the opportunity of perhaps having a Fulbright specialist, which also is funded by the U.S. government, be assigned here. Here, I say here. I'm in Cameroon, by the way. Did you know that? Assigned in Cameroon to be on the ground there to help facilitate building this. It's an infrastructure, but it's really, to understand. It has to fit in with the culture. It has to be a design that works for the community. There's other things to look at as to how we can really create a very comprehensive infrastructure that can support a sustained effort to build the critical mass, but also to raise the level of that mass as far as the skill sets and the competencies that our participants have. It's very exciting. We're very optimistic about what the possibilities are. Did I miss anything, Maboh?
I don't think you did, but just to add that we had some of our students participate in this program. I think that's a unique opportunity for students to learn. We had CNHP students in the program, and that's something that we will do, maybe get more students involved with the project team.
Absolutely. And they were invaluable, particularly Kaylee, who was a really roll up your sleeves program participant or participant on the team. And to bring interdisciplinary approach. And I don't think we really mentioned that before, realizing that we are a comprehensive, where CNHP is a College of Nursing and Health Professions, but we drew from all disciplines. We had business, we had we had business, we had labor specialists, we had computer science. We had a variety of participants. So if the subject matter was different, a variety, and the fact that they came together in this environment is also very exciting. So I think comments or questions?
That was terrific. Thank you. Thank you both for joining us today for today's Tuesday topic. I did have a question as you were rolling through that I just want to throw out there. So you learned early on that your students were not receiving the email message that were being sent out, and so you would relay the messages via WhatsApp. Is there a technological solution in there that like perhaps you could build into future models that a notice gets launched out to a method where students can reach it in the construction, or is that something that's beyond our reach? I'm curious how the technology worked in Cameroon to be able to help students get that last mile of contact.
Yeah, I think SMS is the key. That's the, and currently the interface with an LMS like Blackboard, which is what we were using our partners area, doesn't really push out via email. It doesn't push out SMS. You
Right.
know? And that's the key right there. So could we figure out a way to do that? I don't know. We may have to continue to do it like a echo, whisper down the lane, but that would definitely be something that would be
think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's great if you have somebody like Maboh who's willing to sort of pick up the ball and throw it to the next guy. But if you can figure out a way to sort of bridge that, maybe there's funding for just that piece in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
something
it's worth pursuing. I can even ask Blackboard if they're doing it. But the thing is that's the limitation we have here also, is that they are using Google Classroom, other LMSs that they were playing around with. So we didn't have a universal one. It would really be nice if somebody stepped up, and I don't believe that anybody has a proprietary LMS, to my knowledge, of our participants. They are all using free.
No, they're all using free.
Yeah, it would be really nice if we could get, for the entire country of Cameroon, one of the big major players step forward and say, we're going to offer our LMS for free, because it's a market. It's getting your foot in the market, would be. So that's something else to explore, to see if we can get things like that in place to leverage. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for your time, and we'll see you next time on Tuesday Topics.